Vince McMahon is reportedly starting a new company, and we are going to talk about it right here on the Ango Show. All right, guys, I thought this would happen. In fact, I pretty much predicted this would happen, but this is where things get really interesting because it actually is happening. Vince McMahon plans to launch a new entertainment company, according to a groundbreaking report by PWInsider.com. It's been reported that Vince McMahon has been in the process of setting up what has been described as a new entertainment hub company, which would financially back, develop, and produce film and television productions. It's believed that there are no plans to launch anything similar to WWE, as they focus on fiction and non-fiction projects. Several WWE alumni are already working with WWE's former Vince McMahon to prepare for this new company. The idea is to unveil it once his legal issues are resolved. The company is expected to be based in the Los Angeles area, and Kevin Dunn has not been involved in this new venture at all. Brad Blum, who was WWE's former chief operating officer, is working on the project with Vince McMahon, and it looks like there's more. Kristen Prudy, who was WWE's liaison to the Hollywood world, is also on board. She joined WWE in 2005 after being the original casting director for the initial Diva search. WWE did let her go earlier this year, and now she has found her way working again with Vince McMahon. Okay, let's talk about this. This is going to be a deep dive. I'm going to need a little bit of time. I truly appreciate you guys for sticking around and actually listening to this because there's a lot of things I want to say. A new entertainment hub company, what does that actually mean? Well, like I said in the article, Vince McMahon's new company plans to financially back television and film productions. Okay. Why do I not believe that will actually be the thing that happens here? And really, who's to say that Vince McMahon just doesn't start up another wrestling company? I want to talk about that in a minute. Let's talk about how this is going to be dead on arrival. That's what I'm predicting. Two things that you really need to pay attention to. The first one being they don't plan to unveil this company until Vince McMahon's legal issues are resolved. We might be a long way from that. And we don't know what the whole situation will be. As I have said from the very, very beginning of when the allegations were first brought up, it is a legal process. There is so much to be uncovered. We can all sit there and point fingers and we can talk and speculate, and that's fine. But at the end of the day, it's not fine for me. I'm one of those guys. I want to see the whole process play out. That's the most important thing. There's a lot of different stories floating around. There's a lot of different things being said. And for me personally, to make a proper judgment here, I want to see how the legal proceedings actually go. Now, with that being said, I do want to point out, no matter what, the damage has already been done to Vince McMahon. Okay, like, I can certainly tell you guys that with Vince McMahon's new company, there will be people who do not mind supporting Vince McMahon. There will be people who have no problem getting on board, working with Vince McMahon. It was very clear when Vince McMahon forced his way back into the company, he had his people there that were loyal to him regardless, and they were obviously responsible for him coming back to the WWE after he initially stepped down, right? There's without a doubt in my mind, there are people who are going to ride or die for Vince McMahon. At the same time, too, I do believe that Vince McMahon will have a very hard time making this a mainstream success because of the legal issues and the allegations. I do believe there are a lot of people who want to stay away from Vince McMahon because they don't want their brand to even be identified with Vince McMahon's brand. And I think this was part of the whole thing with TKO as a company. TKO was trying to separate and distance themselves from Vince McMahon. And they made that very clear, okay? So, I think Vince is going to have a very hard time getting this off the ground. Let's talk about pro wrestling, because Vince McMahon, we can love him or hate him, but if there was one thing Vince McMahon did really well with, it was making WWE a global phenomenon. Okay? It doesn't really matter how you guys personally feel about Vince. It doesn't matter what I personally feel about Vince. The truth of the matter is, professional wrestling became a major success due to Vince McMahon. Okay? His influence in growing the business getting into pay-per-views, getting into streaming. He did a lot. Okay, Vince McMahon did a lot. And I think when you compare the success of professional wrestling that he's had versus some of his other ventures, like the XFL, for example, I do believe that Vince McMahon would more than likely try to get back into the wrestling business. And I would say that this new entertainment hub company could very well be launching a pro wrestling promotion at some point. Even though the report does not indicate that, I think it is very likely that Vince McMahon wants to be involved in pro wrestling. I think it is very likely that Vince McMahon is not happy seeing what has happened to the WWE. If you look at the company and if you look at what they're accomplishing with TKO, I think Vince wants to be a part of that. And the truth is, I don't think Vince was ever willing to let go of the WWE. I don't think Vince McMahon ever planned to give the WWE to his kids, to his son-in-law. I don't think that was ever part of the plan. I think Vince McMahon wanted to literally just be there until the very end. And because he couldn't do that with WWE, I do think that Vince McMahon and his new company will try to find a way to weasel into professional wrestling. Now, that is going to be very difficult, but it is possible. I think Vince McMahon really, I think he's really going to struggle with this, to be honest. I really do. And I think for him to come back and start a new entertainment company and all of these different things, I think it is going to be very apparent that this is going to be a difficult task compared to professional wrestling. We could talk about Vince McMahon's ability to book. We can talk and discuss that and say, hey, in his later years, he really screwed things up in terms of booking and creative. But we cannot ignore the fact that Vince McMahon was a major success in professional wrestling and did great jobs negotiating and working with partnerships and expanding the brand. And if there was one thing that Vince McMahon did really well with, it was that. And if there was one thing that Vince McMahon might be able to do, I think it's more likely he would be willing to grow a wrestling company than this entertainment company. That's the reality. I do think that's going to happen. I could be 100% wrong. But I just do not believe for a second that Vince McMahon ever wanted to be away from professional wrestling. I don't. I really don't. And I think whatever he's doing, I think it will eventually lead to a professional wrestling company. Will it be big? Will it be a success? I'm going to say no, but you never know. You literally never know. It is so crazy to see what is at planned here, because what is currently in the plans, the way I look at it is you could be a billionaire, you're alive, you're healthy, your family's healthy. Why not just walk away from it all? But no, not Vince. Very interesting stuff, guys. Let me know what you think down below.